Welcome to another great edition of Beacons of Light, and today we've got a really special guest, somebody that had me laughing and smiling, Father Michael Miceli. How are you, Father Miceli?
They're doing great. It's wonderful to be here for the program today.
Well, we've known each other for decades.
It has been a long time. It's hard to believe.
It is. I'm in my 32nd year at St. Vincent de Paul, and I've been knowing you all those years.
Exactly.
And you have one thing I love about you, Father Miceli, is your experience with the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. And when you tell that story, to me, it's always been powerful. It's touched my life. Would you share that?
I'd definitely be glad to. Really, St. Vincent de Paul and working with them in the conference at St. Anthony, my home parish, was very instrumental in my vocation in answering the call to the priesthood. Because at the time I was in college at LSU, and I was in political science. The intention was to go into law school, and certainly in that time was the end of the 80s, and so certainly a lot of the talk was, especially you know, you get people off of welfare and the poor, you know, they're just draining, and so it was interesting. An invitation was extended by a parishioner who was a member of Vincent. Why don't you come and think about St. Vincent de Paul? So it was a wonderful invitation, one of the greatest, turns in retrospect, invitations. So started going to the meetings and decided to join the society. And it was just a very powerful impact, because it really opened my eyes to see beyond just really kind of the rhetoric that was out there. Because and that's what I love about St. Vincent de Paul, and still to this day, even though people, and I can understand why people are concerned about their safety, but the society still has that personal touch of trying to make home visits, because it's not just about certainly we try to meet their needs, but it's also to treat them as human beings, and also to see Christ in them because of that spiritual component of St. Vincent de Paul Society. So it really opened my eyes going to the people's homes and sitting with them and talking to them, and many times what struck me most was that sometimes we couldn't help them with their rent or with a bill or whatever, or food, but they were so very appreciative that somebody came and cared to come into their house and talk with them and listen to them and try to do what we could. And what I discovered is many of them just tremendous faith, and I discovered that they're not trying to cheat the system. Many of them it was just circumstances of their lives put them in the situation that they were in. And it just opened my eyes to see, no, it's a much more complex situation, poverty in the United States and certainly in our area. And it was just really moved when really the scriptures come alive when you say, Jesus said, I was hungry and I was thirsty, and you fed me and you gave me drink. Well, meeting with them, it's like Christ was in them, and they had tremendous faith, and like sometimes always very appreciative when he helped them, but even when we weren't able to help them, they were still very gracious and thankful that someone cared enough. So that being said, that really working with St. Vincent de Paul, the lady that invited me to the conference, after many years working, one day we were came back from calls and visiting home visits, and she said, have you ever thought about being a priest? And it was a simple question, and I said, oh, no way, no, I'm going to law school, that's not for me, it's funny, I kind of laughed it off. But that question, stuck with me. And I realized that, working with St. Vincent de Paul, working with the church, it really brought me a sense of joy. And this was something fulfilling. It was hard at times. It's heartbreaking to see some people in the poverty and how hard it is for them and how hard they're trying to improve their lives, and how a difficult uphill battle is for many of them. But it's a fulfilling thing and again, I think it's because that spiritual aspect, Jesus is present in them. And so the question stuck with me, and I dismissed it at first, but then I thought, well, maybe I should think about it. I thought, okay, well, maybe I should look into it. I was going back and forth. I said, I'm gonna wait, and I did. I waited for another year because I was going to graduate LSU, and as it got closer to time to graduate, the question that was asked a year ago came back, and my sister at the time, she had known, of course, a year ago what that question and how I was pondering it. And I was supposed to be, of course, applying for law school and all that kind of stuff, and she said, well, you know, a year ago you were really interested, and she said, you know, why don't you just at least contact the vocation director and just inquire, because you don't want to regret not doing that. And it turns out now 24 years later as a priest, that was one of the greatest advice I had. And I did contact Father Uter, and as they say, here I am 24 years later, and continuing the same joy and fulfillment that I found in the early days working with St. Vincent de Paul. It still is there 24 years later. And I'm so very fortunate to have a parish at St. Patrick's now that has such a vibrant, active society conference, Society of St. Vincent de Paul conference there. And so it's a blessing indeed.
Sometimes it's good to turn off the rhetoric and turn on God, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. I think for a lot of people it's, and that's, for this example, this last year, things were so divisive because politics is by nature divisive.
Right.
And we have a lot of issues and problems. I want to tell people to stop arguing about them, go out and do something. And St. Vincent de Paul provides that opportunity. Do you want to really know the story? Well, volunteer at the dining room, and you're going to get to know the people. Don't listen to what people are saying. Get to know the people that are actually caught in poverty, and you'll be amazed at how it changes, and you get to understand it's a much more complex thing. And really, that's, like you say, it's God showing us, that's what you're here for. You're to reach out to those who are needy. That's what I need you to do. Just as Jesus did, we're called to do the same thing. Stop talking about all these issues. Do something. Feed the hungry. Help them out. And the Society of St. Vincent de Paul gives us such a wonderful opportunity in so many ways to do just that.
In a really true sense, it changed your life.
It did.
And it would change, and with about a minute and a half to go, it can change anyone's life. So you'd encourage people to do it.
Definitely. Definitely. Even if you're not quite sure you want to join the society, well, just go and say, look, I'd like to check it out. And I think most of them would be glad. Come to the meetings. You come with them on a home visit. But once you start, you'll be amazed at how Christ works in and through Society of St. Vincent de Paul.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the importance of letting yourself open up to Christ's call. Because as Father Michael just said, it's all about opening your ears to God's message in your life. What is He trying to tell you? How can you open your mind to being there to answer Christ's call, to seek, find the forgotten, the suffering, or deprived? When we come back, we'll continue this discussion of the importance of reaching out to those in need. For over 20 years, the St. Vincent de Paul Community Pharmacy has served our area. We provide prescription medicines for those who have nowhere to turn for this most basic healthcare need. Please, if you need your medicine or you know a family member that needs their medicine, contact us. Kay, how can they get in touch?
383-7450.
Give us a call today and spread the word so that we can ensure no one goes without their prescription medication. What makes a great show is great guests, and with me today is Father Michael Miceli, pastor of St. Patrick Church, and you are a great guest, and we've done a lot of things together and experienced a lot of different things, everything from the car donation program. We'll talk about that in a minute, but before we do so, great people, and Rosie Martina, 98-year-old Vincentian, just got the Golden Deeds Award last year, and you worked with him at St. Jude.
Yes, I sure did. I can remember Rosie. Finally, it's 20 24 years ago when I started and met Rosie. But I'm sure even at 90, I haven't seen Rosie, unfortunately, in a little while. But I'm sure he's just as vibrant and enthusiastic. And mostly it's about helping those in need.
Yes.
And at 98, I think there's something to be said about when you spend your life and so much of it trying to help, it makes you young at heart. And Rosie is a fine example of that wonderful joy and that spirit of what it does when we follow Jesus' call to reach out and help those in need.
Yeah, when you were at St. G, that was 20 years ago or so. So he was he was a young man in his 70s. It makes us feel good. Huh?
That was incredible.
It's
He's just amazing and well-deserved at 98.
We want to be 75 and be 75 and feel like we're 50,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
That's the way
I want to make it to 75.
and off camera, no doubt, we all do. And we were talking off camera, you mentioned Father Uter and his impact in your life. And another person in his 70s now, just retired as a priest, but just as active as ever, isn't he?
Exactly. It's amazing. Father Uter as well, which is a wonderful, wonderful, fine, priest. And just a good, kind person.
Yes.
And always, a heart for the poor. I can remember many stories when he was at the cathedral in Baton Rouge. People come to his door, he would give them whatever they needed. In fact, someone saw a homeless person with Father Uter on the back of their sweatshirt because someone was cold and came to his door, and Father Uter gave him what he had. But it's just an example of Father Uter, just a wonderful, kind, and showing what it means to always, at the heart of the mission in any parish, like it is for Society of St. Vincent de Paul, but every parish is called, as we're called by Jesus, we've got to take care of those who are in need and the poor.
No doubt. And, the support of the pastor is so important.
Oh, definitely,
And at St. Patrick, you got a great St. Vincent de Paul ministry. Why is it important for the pastors to support it? And are you uplifted to see members of your parish doing what you did some many years ago when you joined the society?
Yeah, but definitely for the pastor support is so very important because when people know that the pastor is supporting them, encourages more people to get involved. It also pastors also to get involved because a lot of people will come to a church on a regular basis, you're asking for need, which is understandable, and that's what one of the things we're there for, is to help those in need. And so I did encourage any pastor to start, if they don't have a St. Vincent de Paul site, to start one, because what I've liked about it, I'd love to spend more time when someone comes in need and sitting there and talking with them and finding out and assessing their situation and walk the journey with them. But with all the other responsibilities as a priest and a pastor, you just don't have the time. But what's wonderful about St. Vincent de Paul, you can say, well, look, we give you the number, you call them, and I know, because I've had the experience, and I know the people at St. Patrick, they are going to call the people, they're going to go to their home many times. If they can't make it to their homes, they're going to talk to them on the phone, and they're going to not just, like a business, let's get this over with. No, but they're going to treat them with the respect that's due to them, sit down with them, assess their needs, and let them know, look, you're loved, you're not forgotten. We're going to do whatever we can to help you. And I think that's to me as a pastor, realizing, okay, I'm so happy I have a Society of St. Vincent de Paul because I know the poor that come here, the people that are doing love what they're doing, love the poor, love Jesus, and when the people come to them, they're going to treat them with the kind of respect that they deserve, and they're going to do whatever they can to help them. And we're very active at St. Patrick, and it's important to have that relationship between the society and the pastor, because as pastor, of course, we at St. Patrick's, and before I'd come there, the pastors previous to me, you dedicated a very good portion of the parish budget to support St. Vincent de Paul, as well as, and we continue that, collections for St. Vincent de Paul. And the parishioners, I can't say enough about the parishioners of St. Patrick, how very generous they really are monetarily and financially, because they see what St. Vincent de Paul has been doing for years, and they want St. Vincent de Paul just to ask, and they're ready to support the conference because they know how much of an impact they're making in the area. So it's important to have a pastor that encourages that, and when people see, the parishioners see how this is important, and the pastor, is supporting it, it really helps to, help the needy in the area. So I'd recommend every pastor, if you don't have a society, a conference, set it up. And the wonderful thing about it is, I know that you and everyone at St. Vincent de Paul will be there to support them and help them,
Yes,
and
Father.
every step of the way, and everything's already so well, put together.
Right.
It's just a wonderful thing to have. So you don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel, so to speak.
Yes,
indeed. You can have so much assistance and help.
Well, as a pastor, when you see your parishioners going out and taking Christ out off the grounds of the church, taking it out to those who desperately need that helping hand, does that inspire you?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. That's truly what we're called to do.
Yes.
After every Mass, we say, the Mass is over, now go forth.
Yes.
And so they really are, taking that message that fed by the Eucharist, the Word and the Eucharist, and they go forth now to help those, especially in need. So I'm always inspired about seeing what they do and continue to do to help those in need around our area.
Yes, indeed. And you've always been there for me. I remember years ago, I got to bring this up, and we wanted to start a car donation program. You remember that?
I certainly.
And I said, Father, will you help me? And I said,
you need to show the picture.
We're going to get the pictures so that we can put them up here, and the pictures of you pulling in a car and pushing a car, and we didn't have $200,000 to spend on advertising and the TV and all this, but we needed something, and it was great, wasn't it?
It was. I was amazed at how many people I didn't know would see me at different places around the day and say, "Hey, you're the one pushing the car."
Yes, indeed.
And I said, "Yeah."
We need to do one 20 years ago and one today.
We should. Yeah.
We got to do that.
That'd be great.
Just to kind of let people know how it all started.
Exactly.
And every year, people may not know, we probably get about 400 car donations a year.
Oh, that's great.
And that roughly generates, after we pay for expenses, $200,000 to $300,000 for the ministries of the society. And it's all goes back to a young Father Miceli pushing a car, pulling a car. I guess it's a message that we can all do things. We can be creative, and that we're called to do that, right?
Definitely. And that's what I love also about the society, and under your leadership. Y'all have never, as the society has always said, no act of charity is beyond at least looking into. If there's different ways, whatever there's a need, and certainly over the years y'all have been doing that. We needed a pharmacy. The pharmacy here. We needed a homeless shelter for men. We needed a homeless shelter for women and children. So that's what I say. Whenever there's anything, an opportunity, that's what the Society of St. Vincent de Paul does.
Yes, sir.
It's very proactive to say, okay, what's need now? Things always change, as time goes on. So what are the people's needs? And so I think that's just a wonderful thing about the society, is that constantly looking for different ways. What can we do? How can we serve the poor? How can we reach out? And so that's what is a wonderful aspect of the society.
There are many wonderful aspects of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. When we come back, we'll continue our discussions with Father Michael Miceli. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul's first cookbook, Taste and See, is the gift which helps share the goodness of the Lord with those most in need. Featuring recipes from Chef John Foles, each chapter begins with a short story about one of our special work programs. To order your copy of Taste and See, please call the Society or visit our website. Help multiply blessings for the neediest in our community. St. Vincent de Paul is always there to respond. And with me is Father Michael Miceli. We're talking about responding. And during the recent freezes this past winter, you called me and you said, somebody has come to us in need and it's freezing outside. What can we do? It was powerful what you did.
It was a Sunday afternoon. Actually, I'd gotten my car to go pick up something at Walgreens, and as I'm going through my parking lot, I see a young lady sitting on the curb. I said, well, maybe she's just sitting there, maybe waiting for a friend or something. So when I came back from Walgreens and I come back and she's still there, but this time she's laying down sleeping, I said, well, this is not right. I mean, and it's going to get cold tonight, so, you know, so I stopped and I said, you know, introduced myself to the pastor here and, you know, is there anything I can do? And she told her, you know, her story that she was kicked out of her home. I thought she was really young, but she was, I think, 21. I said, well, you know, I don't have any place, but I know who I can call.
Yeah.
And that's when I, you know, took her to the office and gave her, had some, you know, chips and stuff, said water and stuff. I said, let me make some phone calls. And so that's when I called you and said, Michael, this is the situation. I know it's a Sunday night, but, you know, it's late and it's going to be cold and, you know, what can we do? And thank God you arranged, you know, to get her a spot at the shelter.
It was easy for me to do. It was hard for you because you had to then play chauffeur and get the lady to our shelter.
Right.
Which,
I realized that, you know, there was no way, you know, she could
those were those
walk
freezing
that far.
nights.
Yeah, it was very cold. It was,
those were those freezing. Absolutely, her
life
life would have been in jeopardy.
Exactly. So, you know, I don't remember everybody just picking up a stranger and taking them, but in that situation, I could tell, you know, that she was not.
Right, and we talked about it over the phone, and we felt good about getting that woman out of peril's way.
And she was very appreciative, and I'm, you know, very glad I was able to, that I was there and able to help her out, and that St. Vincent de Paul was a place that she could go to get out of the weather and also to, you know, to help her that night.
Always being there, always trying to make things better. And that's what the Bishop Duca has done with the kind of reimagining things. And now there's the Pastoral Services Secretariat, which you are in charge of.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's kind of a reorganization, but it's actually going to a structure that we have had before. But it's kind of tried to get it started back again. It's really exciting. And very honored and humbled to be, you know, the secretary for the Pastoral Services Secretariat. But of course, you go to the meetings as well. What's very valuable to me, the most valuable thing about it, is having all the different organizations, the heads of different organizations, like St. Vincent de Paul, Hispanic Apostolate, Catholic Community Services, all these different groups in a room at a meeting, sharing the things that they're doing. And what it does, it opens up that opportunity to see where we can work together, to collaborate in addressing some of the most difficult issues and challenges as a church, as the Catholic Church in Baton Rouge, where we can come together, because coming together and working together, we can do a lot more than, you know, being separate. And sometimes just in meetings we discovered, you know, look, well, you needed a Spanish translator, and the Hispanic Apostolate said, well, you know, we could probably help you with that. And they, vice versa, they needed help with something, and you said, well, we can help you. And so it's really like a network, these meetings to be able to, you know, coordinate and cooperate and collaborate on the different things to reach out and help, you know, those. And so it's, of course, fairly new, so I'm getting used to have no clue when I started what I'm supposed to be doing, but the more and more that we have meetings, and it's really coming together very nicely, and I think it's going to bear a lot of fruit for the diocese. And I think it's a wonderful thing that Bishop Duca has done to, you know, to establish that opportunity to have people meeting and working together.
Yeah, and I, you know, being a part of it, I can see the Holy Spirit working. Examples that you just gave, and many others where we've come together and we've been able to do things that, as just an organization, we necessarily couldn't do.
Exactly.
And so that's the power of the good Lord. When the Holy Spirit starts to work, things start to happen.
That is so very true. And of course, with this past year, as everybody was well aware, with COVID, there were special challenges, and so it was very providential to start this at that time. Because having the different groups coming together, we could address some of the, you know, the challenges.
Started with Zoom, started with distance meetings and masks. So good to see everybody at the last meeting without a mask.
Exactly.
And we're able to smile.
The Lord is delivering us, you know, from. God is faithful. So hopefully we continue in this direction of, you know, COVID, you know, staying away and people stay, you know, healthy.
Well, one of the things that I found powerful in our last meeting was we talked a little bit in the earlier segments about rhetoric and things that we hear out, and we also talked about concerns about violence and other things that we as a church have to follow Christ's call to love one another. And that's kind of what the emphasis of working together under this Pastoral Services Secretariat is all about, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's at the heart of it. Is again, we're not about politics. Yeah. We're about people, because Jesus was about people, and Jesus was about reaching out to take care of people, and that was his simple command to all of us: love one another.
Right.
And love meaning anyone and everyone.
Yes.
And I think right now we'd all do well to simply go back to the basics of love one another. And what that means, if we love others and love people, we're not going to resort to violence to solve our issues. And I think it sounds very simplistic, but I think one of the problems we're having right now is just we've become a culture that is so becoming just used to violence as if it's something that's a normal way of how we do things, and it's very heartbreaking, I think, for everyone. Very scary to see how much violence plagues our city.
Right.
And so I want to begin the discussion at the pastoral services, so that look, what can we all do, different groups, to just bring that issue to the forefront and say, what can we do to end the violence, do something to stop all this, and really just with a message of Jesus' peace.
Right.
That's when he came back, the risen Christ, one of the first things he told the apostles, he said, peace, peace be with you. And so, like I said, it's a simple thing, but I think more and more people, we need to pledge, look, I'm not going to give in, to the violence and the rhetoric of violence, and I'm going to try to choose, that's not the answer. And show that to others and live that in my own life and encourage others. Look, we need to learn to love one another, to respect one another and respect human life, that every human life is so very valuable, and that violence is not going to be the answer. People have disputes, people get angry, but picking up a gun or resorting to violence is not going to be the answer. Jesus really gives us the answer.
Jesus is the answer.
That's right.
And thank you, Father Michael Miceli. Thank you for all you do for our diocese, for St. Patrick Parish, and thank you for your personal friendship. And
thank you, Michael, for all that you do in society.
Thank you. Well,
we appreciate it.
Father Michael, we're so blessed to have great priests in this diocese, and he's one of them. And we hope you enjoyed today's show, where we shared the wonderful story of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul and the wonderful things our church is doing to better our community. We hope you'll get involved. Visit us at svdpbr.org. Be a part of our local society and help us spread God's love to those in need.